Well, Egypt is actually joining the international community in marking the International Day of the Solidarity with the Palestinian people. It's celebrated by the United Nations annually on the 29th of November. The commemoration of the day this year is coinciding with a truce between Israel and Hamas, entering its sixth day on Wednesday, mainly thanks to Egypt's mediation with other parties that are pushing for a sustainable ceasefire. Egypt's mediation in brokering this truce between Hamas and Israel, along with its commitment to this process in reaching the agreement for an extension, is definitely lauded worldwide. No doubt that Egypt's proximity and historical relations with Palestine on one level, as well as its considerable sustained diplomatic efforts in that regard as well, makes Cairo's role pivotal in that regard to a stable outcome of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. And ever since this escalation took place in Gaza, Egypt has been urging the international community in order to take serious action. Well, welcome to another edition of the Daily Debate for tonight. I'm Taghreed Hussein, and always honored to have with us our distinctive guest, His Excellency Ambassador Dr. Mohamed Higazy, former Assistant to the Foreign Minister. Your Excellency, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, Excellency. And together we'll be actually shedding light about the prudence of Egypt's political leadership has actually manifested to contribute to the containment of the crisis in Gaza, the considerable effort of Egypt's diplomacy in that regard in order to broker this truce between Hamas and Israel in the Gaza Strip, how Egypt, with its history and its geographical and geopolitical weight, actually is contributing decisively to finding a solution to the present situation in Gaza. This report, and we'll be back.
President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has always asserted the importance of reaching a permanent ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and the entry of the largest possible volume of relief aid to meet the living needs of the Palestinians in Gaza and reduce their huge sufferings. Last Friday, Egypt and Qatar mediated a 4-day truce between Hamas and Israel, as well as a prisoner swap deal, stipulating a comprehensive ceasefire in Gaza in its northern and southern parts, and the release of hostages held by Hamas and Palestinian prisoners as well. The humanitarian pause has been in place since Friday morning, and UN teams and partners have been able to scale up the delivery of humanitarian assistance into and across Gaza. The 4-day truce in Gaza saw a huge increase in aid passing through the Rafah border crossing. The number of trucks carrying aid and passing daily through Egypt's Rafah border crossing to the Gaza Strip increased fourfold during the 4-day truce between Hamas and Israel. The truce, brokered by Egypt, Qatar and the US, has not only increased the number of aid trucks passing through the crossing, but also facilitated the delivery of the aid to the northern governorates of the Strip. The US President Biden thanked President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad al-Thani of Qatar for their work to reach an extension of the humanitarian pause in Gaza. According to the terms of the truce deal between Israel and Hamas, 200 humanitarian aid trucks, in addition to 130,000 liters of fuel, are allowed to enter the Gaza Strip every day. On Tuesday, head of Egypt's State Information Service declared that Egypt had facilitated the entrance of 2,263 trucks into the Gaza Strip, carrying a total of 25,240 tons of aid since the start of the war on October 7th. The average number of trucks that used to enter the Gaza Strip before the truce was 50 per day, according to the UN Relief and Works Agency. According to Egypt's State Information Service, on the first day of the truce, 208 trucks entered the Gaza Strip. Egypt is still receiving injured Palestinians from Gaza for treatment in Egyptian hospitals and simultaneously pursuing its efforts to accelerate the transfer of the humanitarian aid into the Gaza Strip to help alleviate the suffering of Palestinians.
So to speak, on the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian people, Mrs. Intisar al-Sisi on her social media account had saluted the steadfastness of the Palestinian people in defending their land, affirming that the Egyptian political leadership and the people support the rights of every Palestinian to achieve their dream and to live in an independent state with all freedom and human dignity. Ambassador Higazy, on that important day as we speak and while we commemorate the solidarity with the Palestinian people, on that day, what's the message, Your Excellency? As we can see, of course, Egypt's endeavors, Egypt had spared no effort to help and support diplomatically and also on the humanitarian level.
Absolutely. Indeed, Tahrir, before I speak about the Egyptian diplomacy and the role Egypt has undertook to stand firm in front of many conspiracies that has really appeared in Gaza, particularly the compulsory expulsion of the Palestinian people, which I'll come to speak in details. But allow me to say that celebrating or commemorating the Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian hasn't been seen like that before. This is a worldwide celebration where all the streets in Europe, in the United States, in Asia, in Africa, everybody consolidated and supported in an unbelievable way of expressing solidarity with the Palestinian like this year. This is a sign that we, or the Palestinian cause, are in conformity with the norms of justice, have attracted all the attention of the world community. No one really accepts what happened to the Palestinian and the atrocities that we have witnessed in front of us on camera shows that the Palestinian people are going to win, because the excessive use of force to me is always a sign of debilitation, a sign of weakness, where the mighty army of Israel attacking from day one civilians. He knows very well, or they know in Israel very well, that they are not attacking. Hamas is underground. They are attacking civilians, and deliberately they are killing people, and civilian in particular. So I wanted to say that this war crime has met all the requirement of a full case of genocide. The intention is there. What they say, they call it attacking a color or a race or a particular group of people, and this is the Palestinian people. And third, the methodology used to compulsory expel them from their home, from north to south, and whatever was in their plan, although was stopped, but still they're looming, besides cutting water, electricity, and fuel. This is the tools that generate a complete case of genocide. And to me, Tahrir, this has to be taken to the International Court of Justice or the International Criminal Court, because if you do not punish the perpetrator, they will repeat it again. And they repeated it from 2008, 2010, and 5 times. They are doing the same thing unpunished. And I guess that if we do this time collectively, let them, or those group of leaders who did not respect human dignity, has to be taken to the court. They are not also a true member of the United Nations, because they have really disrespect all the rules, all the charter rules, and all what we know in the humanitarian international law, so that even they disrespect the Secretary General, Mr. Guterres, when he spoke the truth.
Yes.
So I think they are not also qualified. Their membership in the United Nations has to be suspended. And at least a démarche in the General Assembly to call on the Security Council, where I know that the veto will prevent that. So they call on the Security Council to take steps toward the stopping of the Israeli, or suspension of the Israeli membership. Having said that, I do believe that the Egyptian diplomacy, this is the answer to your question,
yes,
Egyptian diplomacy has been there since day one, And they have tried as much as we can to collectively confront the situation. We brought in the Cairo Peace Conference all the world leaders, and we tried to come with a consensus message to tell the Israelis, not through force, that you can confront the situation. And even in the beginning, some people gave attention to what they are doing. Later on, all have witnessed a crime against humanity and a genocide case that we have all to stand against. Egypt is a responsible regional power. So what I was saying, Tahrir, that Egypt has reacted with its regional responsibilities towards the world community to bring in a common position where the atrocities to be stopped and where the international community should carry its responsibilities. I have to admit that many reactions were very, particularly those who were always advocating human rights and come to my country and other places in the region carrying the same flag of human rights. Human rights were just shattered in front of us, and for long, till the people came out in the streets of London, Paris, and New York, Washington, all the American states, almost including inside the Congress, to tell their leaders that enough is enough. Palestinians should live what Israel has presented to us is adversary to all rules and religious teaching and you name it, all what is the world community have contributed in bringing in stability through rules and respect of peace and human dignity. With that, I think the Israeli inside society, or from within the Israeli society, they should understand also that it is not about violence, it's not about the excessive use of force, it is about peace with the Palestinian. The only guarantor to the Israeli society is to reach out to the Palestinian and to accept the two-state solution. They have tried many times the use of force. They tried to compel the Palestinian to subdue to their colonial attitude and apartheid regime, and I think the Palestinian has proven to be a people that deserve to live side by side to the state of Israel. So when we come to talk about Egypt, I think we have done all what is necessary from a humanitarian perspective, where 85%, as we said, has been entered from the Egyptian territory by the Egyptian government support. And the world community have contributed the rest, but I think they have to do more. The most important now is to safeguard the temporary truths and move further to the larger and wider scale of political discussion, where the two-state solution has to be in the heart of this Gaza the day after.
Yes, exactly, and this has been reiterated more than once during the President's speech, for instance, at the virtual G20 summit, where His Excellency has mentioned that silence is no longer now an option, and reiterating, Your Excellency, that the international community should bear their responsibility. In his speech at the virtual G20 summit, President Sisi stated that the increasing polarization of the international community is adding to the complexity of the situation in Gaza. What's next, Ambassador? How about the international community shouldering their responsibility at this important juncture?
I think, Tariq, we first should pull our hands together to bring in a ceasefire and to drag the temporary truces to a true ceasefire. If we succeeded on that and supply the Palestinian with the urgent needs, they need everything almost. We have seen the destruction of Gaza, complete destruction of Gaza, and that will render us nowhere if this war reignited or the Israeli leaders decided to continue in killing civilians, will lead them nowhere. And I think the only way forward is first to stabilize the ceasefire and to supply the Palestinian with all the needy assistance, and we move to the most important stage is to open up dialogue where a political horizon should be presented on the table for the parties to lead the way to the two-state solutions. But most importantly, we shouldn't really stuck to the old mechanism where an international peace conference is called and we come with a document that the Israeli will not honor. As you remember, Tagreed, we discussed many times, the Oslo Agreement has been really betrayed by the Israelis, and even they destroyed by their mighty air force the projects of development where the European Union themselves have built to the Gazian in completion to the peace established according to Oslo Agreement. So Oslo Agreement was betrayed, although signed and witnessed by the international community.
Yeah.
Why plantation, Cairo Agreement? You may recall that one day I gave you the discussion I had with de Klerk. Frederick de Klerk was the president of South Africa who eradicated apartheid and liberated Nelson Mandela and established the new South Africa for all. He said that I achieved what I have achieved because I honored all my agreements. And if you compare that to the Israelis, you know why we are in. Who weakened the authorities in Palestine, Mahmoud Abbas and Fatah group and the PLO, who have cut the link between Gaza by encouraging Hamas to do this and to get out of the joint running of the country of Palestine. It is the Israelis, and I guess that this time we have to establish a joint geographical link between Gaza and the West Bank, and to bring in the Palestinian Authority in a given time, being the sole representative of the Palestinian people, the PLO, to run the land of Palestine. And if you may recall that Hamas and any other resistant movement, they do act when there is occupation. If you want really to stabilize the situation and to safeguard security for Israel, you need to address the real issue, which is, in one word, occupation.
Yes.
So if Israel dealt with the core issue and respect what it has signed, then we could have reached shore long time before. But we are in this very critical moment of our regional history because of Israel disrespect of all what it has been signed, and the world community, particularly the United States, who have let them go away with their position or their theft.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that Israel will succeed in destroying Hamas. The two slogans raised by the Israeli military and Netanyahu is that we will eradicate militarily Hamas, and we will also militarily liberate our prisoners or hostages. What happened today? They are negotiating with Hamas, although through the wise cooperation of Egypt and Qatar and the United States.
Yeah.
But finally, they have to understand that through peaceful means, wars are only to start any political dialogue. You cannot run the house all the time, destroying the other civilian housing and civilian people. I think the Israelis has to consider also that this government have betrayed their agreement on protecting Israel through the mighty army, which has proven also that force is not the key to stability. Force is not the key to establish peace and security. Security comes only through political agreement, as it happened clearly between Egypt and Israel for almost 50 years, and 35 in Wadi Araba between Jordan and Israel. So to summarize what I was saying, Tagreed, that the Israeli society should get rid of those warmongers and move towards a high and tall leaders, like when we used one day to celebrate Sadat and Ishaq Rabin. We need also a leadership that understood that peace and stability and security for the people of Israel remain always with peace, not with war. War will render them, as we all have witnessed since the 7th. But ask yourself what happened before the 7th. You will understand why this is happening. It happened because the Israeli did not respect the Palestinian. They killed as many in the West Bank as well as in Gaza.
Yeah, since October 7th, Egypt has been sparing no effort in order to contain the crisis in Gaza and put an end to bloodshed. Whether through consultations, His Excellency the President with leaders all over the world, talking to President Biden, where he thanked the President for his role in the joint mediation actually that led to the release of the detainees, and also through the Egyptian-Qatari cooperation as well. How do you see the Egyptian-Qatari cooperation, Ambassador, meantime?
Well, in any region, there is always responsible parties that can really bring wisdom to a situation of disarray and difficulties. In those moments of difficult situation, people or countries like Egypt, like Qatar, with the support of the United States, come to tell the truth, come to do all the needy efforts to bring the parties to understand that only through dialogue, and they facilitate dialogue, they facilitate the release of hostages or prisoners and move further to a wider scope where we should all understand that resistance is attached to occupation. And if you want really to stop any use of violence, you have to address the core issue, which is occupation. Remember that in the IRA example in Northern Ireland, the IRA has even given back to the UN its weaponry, but because they have seen light in the end of the tunnel through the Good Friday Agreement. So if you want Hamas to give up their arms, you should reach the two-state solution and establish it in a way that President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has explained it clearly, that we need to protect the unity of the land, Gaza and the West Bank, and we need to bring the authority to play its role, and we need the international community maybe in a transitional period to play a role, being it an international force or a UN force, but we render the land together to the hand of the sole representative of the Palestinian people, which is the Palestinian Authority. And after that, you may ask Hamas to become a political party and to give away arms to the UN for a period of time till we all agree that the agreement that we have reached is not provoked or invoked by the Israelis, as they always deny, and even when they sign, they don't respect their signature. And that has been seen in Oslo, when they have gained all the commitments of the Palestinian Authority. When it comes to them, they just run away, and nobody really blamed them for that. The American newcon at that time were supporters to this reaction, and they bombarded all what has been built in Gaza. So this is not really the time that we can, at least in Egypt, that we can leave the Palestinian after all those sufferings without their state. I know that the American administration is carrying this responsibility, and a lot of contacts is happening, and I don't think that the world community will accept. Even the Israeli public opinion has moved from only slogans to liberate hostages to slogans that we missed for many years till they talk now about the need for peace, the need of stability, and that will never happen without a Palestinian state. And if not a two-state solution, are they ready for one-state solution? I don't think so. Or the third alternative, which is eradicating the Palestinian territory from its population, the world community will not allow. So it will remain the two-state solution, a Palestinian state, and not through international conferences and stuff, but through an agreed-upon agreement that will allow temporarily an international presence and move further to bring in the attention, the rulership of the Palestinian Authority, and move to establish the new Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital, and two people living side by side. Without that, Israelis will remain suffering, and Palestinians.
Yes, since the start of the crisis, the president has been like crystal clear saying that it is a red line. the issue of the displacement of the Palestinians in the Gaza Strip to Egypt. And it has been definitely, as we all know, that Palestine is considered to be a gateway also to Egypt's security and stability. So from the very first beginning, it has been clear, that red line.
This red line means that the Israelis should watch out. You are dealing with Egypt, and you are disrespecting the peace treaty, which we have invested for 50 years to bring in Israel to get integrated into the region. And this is in itself, as we speak now, is a war crime to expel people from the north to the center or to the south. And another war crime if you are trying to compulsorily expel them to Egypt. A matter which you have stipulated what the President has said clearly, and the National Security Council of Egypt, when they said this is a red line. When President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi said in Libya that Gufra Sert line is a red line, he means a red line. And everybody, Turkey and the supporter of the West, Libya, understood what that means. And in our case, this is a very challenging moment that will affect the Egyptian-Israeli relations and the Egyptian-Israeli peace treaty. And as I said, this is a red line that has to be respected. And the Egyptian national security is in the good hands of people who knows how to protect it. So don't try it.
Yes. Is there more than one scenario, Ambassador, that you read concerning the scenarios that we see after Gaza War? I mean, it's a big question mark. What's after Gaza War? How will the region look like after this war?
I'll tell you what I think and hopefully what will happen. What I think is that we need a quantum change. We need a true game changer. Netanyahu and his government present their resignation, for example. This is a game changer, which is very looming and possible and needy, because they have failed their people, and they failed the region, and they failed the human and principles of international law. And they have to give a way for, as I said, tall leaders, leaders who understand peace. And as I said, this gentleman and his group of ministers have led Israel to destroy all hopes with the Palestinians and with the region. And they have conducted settlement policy that rendered Israel to an apartheid state. And as you can see for yourself now, the kind of ministers, one is shouting, calling for the use of nuclear power, and the others is distributing arms to the public on the streets. And I don't think that those leaders will render Israel in peace, will not bring stability to this country. And for that, Tagreed, I guess that the friends of Israel should really convince them and bring them out of this dilemma, because they are really acting now as war criminals. And I don't think that even the Israeli public opinion will accept to continue like that with a government of this nature. So this is one game changer that I think is important. Second is that, say, President Biden, for example, call on few leaders, wise, and the two parties. It doesn't have to be Hamas, can be Mahmoud Abbas, who has been weakened by the Israelis, but still there as a symbol of peace, as a symbol of someone who believed that we can live together, and discuss, maybe like in Camp David, the way forward. And this way forward should be an immediate state of Palestine, and we create the conditions required. President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi put another alternative, which is true recognition in the Security Council or the United Nations or by the states. This recognition of the Palestinian states will establish a de facto situation where we will have to work how it will happen. It can happen through a temporary or transitional period where an international force arrange the situation in Gaza, keep Hamas for the moment Hamas, I guess, will see a political solution and a light at the end of the tunnel, as I gave the example of the IRA, they will hand over the arms because there is a solution where they can be in the new Palestine, a political party. This is to Hamas and any other, party that uses force. I think we are not lacking experiences. We are not lacking wise men. And maybe the fourth is that from within this very complicated time, we can find a solution. And this solution is not very difficult. The political will in Israel has to be also established. I don't think that the Israeli leadership now has with their mindset close to revenge, are able to move us forward. So I started by a change that might lead the Israeli society out of this dilemma.
Yeah. Yes. Mainly, let me say that taking into consideration the dramatic humanitarian situation in Gaza, the only way out is, as His Excellency has mentioned, is to restart a real political process that would lead to a two-state solution. And this is the mainly way out for this escalation in the Gaza Strip and to contain the situation. A short break and we'll be back. We've seen also, Your Excellency, in the West and the international community, we have lots of world capitals that are backing the Palestinian cause. It's not the fact that the West are against what is actually happening. Definitely the West and many world capitals are against the genocide that is happening in Gaza.
Well, Tagreed, we have to differentiate between Western governments who have been complicit and they even stood against the ceasefire and supported unconditionally Israel, and the people, the Western people. Western people in the streets of London were about 1 million. In Paris, in Italy, in Rome, in Lisbon, in wherever you go in Europe, up till even last Saturday, they were massive demonstration, shows that people are compassionate about truth, about justice, about Palestine. And when I started my discussion with you by saying in the day of solidarity with the people, commemorating the solidarity with the people of Palestine, I said it has never been celebrated like this before. Yeah. Because people everywhere, from the United States to Asia to Europe to the Middle East to the Southern African region to everywhere, in Australia, in New Zealand even, everywhere, they were talking about Palestine. And that shows that people by nature, being it in the West, being in the East, being in Asia, being it in Africa, are advocates of peace and stability and human rights. And what they have seen is against all what we've been brought to learn. It's justice, it is truth, it is religion. So this is situation shows that the West, the Western people, or the Asian people, are all in the right track. Governments who disrespect their people and their call will fall. Yeah. I remember very well Tony Blair after the Iraqi war, when 1 million Brighton were in the streets of London and other cities, and he disrespect them, he fall in the next election. That will happen to all those warmongers and supporters, for those who disrespect international principles of peace and justice. And I think they will pay the price very soon. Many of them, like President Macron, has changed position. And many of them have respected their principles from day one, like the Prime Minister of Spain and Belgium. And I think Guterres remain always Secretary General of the United Nations among the people who have really spoke their heart, spoke about the truth and realities. And I think this is very important, that the change happen, and we are patient enough to drag them all to the right camp, the camp of peace, justice, and the coexistence between people of faith. You're talking about the Abrahamic Accord and people of faith. We're that to what we have witnessed. You need to bring the Israelis out of this dilemma. As I said, friends of Israel is not to support them to continue killing, is to bring them...
to tell them to put an end to this genocide.
And I don't think that the people who committed this genocide should be left in power. This is, I think, the first learning. After that, we can talk peace, because those people are warmongers with a closed mentality of revenge. And the destruction that we have seen haven't been seen before. And the killing of civilians shouldn't be tolerated. Even what happened on the 7th of October, according to the International Criminal Court, is not a justification to commit a similar case. Hamas is still a resistant movement, but Israel is a member of the United Nations, bound by all the legalities and instruments that the international community has adopted and accepted, including the State of Israel.
What does it take to put an end to this genocide? And in the first place, that we have to address it, that it's a real genocide.
I say, Tardid, on the national laws in Egypt, in America, everywhere, there is a national law. If you killed, you are going to be sentenced to certain death sentence or otherwise. If you do a theft, you will be punished. And in the international arena, state-to-state relations, there is a binding law also, the International Criminal Court. If you commit a crime related to a war crime or a genocide, which I'm a true believer that what we have seen is a genocide, when you decide clearly, like the intention, number one. Two is the race or color or religion that you are targeting, which is the Palestinian. Third, and most importantly, the methods used. Who said that you destroy hospitals? Who said that you kill civilians? You used bombs even used in Tora Bora. Imagine that bombs that was bunker destroyers that used to destroy the Palestinian famous Gabalia camp, and what we have seen also in the West Bank over the past few days. I don't understand what logic do you use in the West Bank. There's no Hamas. You are killing people. Again, we as international community have to react. Otherwise, this rampage and the Israeli killing will continue, and that will lead the whole region to destabilization and might lead us, other countries, to interfere. And for me, as a politician, as a diplomat, I think there is always an appropriate moment to understand the truth. Yitzhak Rabin, in his biography, when Nasser has accepted the Rogers peace deal and refused by the Israeli leaders, it led us to the 6th of October war, where 6,000 Israeli soldiers were killed. And Rabin wrote in his biography that we refused Rogers. Stupid, you led to the killing of 6,000 Israelis. Means that you have to understand where to stop. Otherwise, you will do it in 2008, 2010, 2014, 2021, and then for the 5th time, you are committing the same stupidity. Time has come for and I don't think that it is an Israeli position. There is some also feel that other powers are using the geopolitical situation of Israel to attain their global goals. And time has come to let the Arab and the Israelis decide for themselves. Believe me, Tagrid, if it is between the Arab and the Israelis, I just came across the Jewish temple down the road in Adli Street now before coming here. Everything is peaceful. Between people, there is no really challenge. See the kissing and hugging of the free hostages in both sides. It's the same, mothers and children and fathers.
The reunion,
It is a humanitarian reunion, being it in this side of the border or that side of the border. Let the government understand that people are peace lovers, are the caricature of God is the human being. If you destroy the gift of the God, you are putting yourself on the other side, with the devilish side of the society. And I think that the United States has to carry its responsibility to understand that time has come to stabilize the Middle East. It's not through exploiting a geopolitical situation of Israel to force the region into cooperation. Cooperation will come. I was in Jordan as ambassador when Shimon Peres was promoting the peaceful economic relations. I always said that without solving the Palestinian, this economic drive will not live. The economic drive will live when a political solution to the Palestinian cause is happening, when we have a two-state solution. And I don't think that the Israelis will need more time, because time is very short, believe me.
Yes, time has come, and it's high time to stabilize the region. Time has come to wrap up also our fruitful discussion, but hopefully on an optimistic note, Your Excellency, seeking peace and seeking hope on a day which is very much memorable while we are marking this important day in solidarity for the Palestinian cause and for keeping the cause always alive for the sake of humanity and for the sake of peace. I thank you so much, Your Excellency, Ambassador Dr. Mohamed Higazy, former Assistant to the Foreign Minister, for coming to our debate tonight. Thank you so much, Ambassador.
My pleasure.
And I thank you, dear viewers, for joining us. I'm Taghreed Hussein on the Daily Debate for tonight. Many thanks for watching.